we're back with our second discussion episode. At this time, we're tackling bad movies, because we're kind of we're not, the point is not to be a bad movie podcast, but it seems like it keeps ending up that way.
Well, we have watched some good films, and that's definitely,
Yeah.
we want some of that, but, you know, we kind of tend to tackle forgotten films, and usually films are either overlooked and underrated, or they're forgotten for a reason. So that tends to be a lot of what we watch, is they were forgotten for a reason.
True. And also, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Sharknado 2 came out, so it's also ripe for discussion, because that blew up like fucking gangbusters for some reason.
Yeah, and I actually did write a review for the site on that, and I was not a fan.
Yeah, it does not look good.
Yeah.
I did not watch it.
It had a couple of good moments, but overall it was just, it's like all of the films put out by the Asylum, the production company. Like, they might have somewhat of a catchy idea or something that'll grab someone's attention, and there might be a few select sprinkled moments that are actually fun or entertaining, but most of it is just fucking boring, and it's bad CGI, but it's just poorly written dialogue and boring scenes connecting these poorly CGI'd scenes together.
Yeah, and I guess we'll just start our discussion there with Sharknado. We'll just do the original one, because it is kind of the Asylum, and the Asylum makes they're famous for doing, what did they call them? Mockbusters, where they kind of they mock a film that's popular at the moment to try and get people, like ignorant people, to pick it up and rent it or buy it or whatever, like elderly people. It preys on the innocent.
Oh yeah, I think it's kind of a mix of those two. One, it preys on people that just don't know any better, like children and old people that are just like, oh, this is like that thing I heard about. And people that maybe don't want to go spend money at a movie theater, so they're like, oh, this is probably just as good. I'll pick up the almighty Thor instead of going to see Thor. I'll pick up Android Cop instead of going to see RoboCop, which, you know, who knows, it's probably better than RoboCop. I don't know.
It might have been.
I will say, I did just notice one of their newest mockbusters they did. It was called Mercenaries, but it was like an all-females Expendables. And it had like Bridget Neeson and like, Zoe Bell and like all kinds of people. Vivica A. Fox is in it as well. She was in Sharknado 2. But yeah, it's like an all-females Expendables. W
Crazy. It's... Oh, those people. I will say, I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were having an interview with the guy that's the president of the Asylum and runs it, and apparently he goes around on their studio in roller skates, because he's a man of time is money, so he needs roller skates to get from one place A to place B fastly.
I like to think that that's not why he does it. He just always had this fantasy of being like Roller Girl from Boogie Nights, but he can't quite realize that, so he's like, no, time is money, guys. But he just really wants to be Heather Graham.
In the back room, he's just getting banged by a Mark Wahlberg lookalike in his skates.
And just putting down a poor Louise Guzman that needs the work.
But another interesting thing he said is that their movies, from start to finish, spend about a month in production, which is fucking ridiculous.
Not only that, but the fact that they do that and they have never lost money on a film.
Not what? Yeah, never lost money. Insanity.
So not even big ones like Sharknado that like got into the popular conscience and everything. Like any fucking movie they put out and you see in your local Hastings, or I don't even know any other video stores that still exist, or like you see on Sci-Fi or on Netflix, like they have never lost money on it, and I don't see how, because I've watched a few of these and they're all god awful. There are only 2 films they ever put out, and they didn't even make them, they just distributed them, that I actually enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, and just to imagine that Troma generally does not make money except for the studio, like their filmmakers don't make any money. But then again, the Asylum may be the same way. We don't know. But anyway, let's get back on topic, because this isn't about Asylum. This is about Sharknado. And making an intentional bad movie.
Well, see, and that's why it is kind of about the Asylum, because that's the main thing we want to talk about. When we say we're talking about bad movies, we're talking about movies that we love, that are considered bad movies for different reasons, versus movies that set out to be bad, that are indeed bad. Yeah, because there's no heart in it.
Exactly. And so why does Sharknado fall in that category is where I want to start. Because it has its moments, I will say. It has some really weird shit that kind of stands out. It has... And until I heard this interview, I kind of like the fact that whenever they're driving in their SUV or whatever car, there's just a white background, as if they couldn't be bothered to put in a background on the green screen. I almost enjoyed that a little bit. I thought that was kind of... It was strange, but now looking back on it, it's just cheap.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of aspects to those kind of movies, especially Sharknado, to where it does feel like, you know, a low-budget B movie that you can maybe get behind, but everything else is not, because they just do it sloppy. Like you said, that they in a month, they'll come up with a script, shoot it, cast whoever the fuck needs a paycheck for the week, and you know, whatever C or D-list celebrities they need, and they'll just churn out this movie. There's no love, there's no passion in it. They're not trying to make a good movie, even though they know it's not going to be, you know, a blockbuster. They're like, oh, I have this kind of cool idea. I'm going to put some effort into this. I'm passionate about it. I'm going to try to make the best movie I can. They're just like, churn out whatever the fuck you can in a month, and we'll put it out. We'll make money. We don't lose it, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's a machine it's just a machine that keeps churning out movies. And he also during the interview, he's saying that someone will come to him with an idea and they're just like, yeah, we'll do that. Like, just give us the base idea, we'll make your movie. And so that's also how they function to a certain degree, which once again comes out that there's not much heart in these. And God knows why Sharknado took off, because they've made tons of movies just like this. Like, they are pretty famous for making alligator versus shark man, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, they do giant whatever sea creature versus other giant whatever sea creature kind of movies. And you know, they're all really bad, but I think the main difference with this, I'm not sure how many they've done before, but Sharknado was really pimped out by the Sci-Fi Channel. They saw it as like this big opportunity.
Oh, Sci-Fi, yeah.
Yeah, because both that one and the sequel played on Sci-Fi, and I know a lot of the other ones have played on Sci-Fi as well, but I think Sharknado was an actual Sci-Fi original movie. Like, they commissioned them to make it, and I think they pimped it out like they expected it to be big, and they threw it in the public consciousness, because the idea of a Sharknado, like a shark-filled tornado, is a cool idea, but when you actually watch the movie, there isn't a Sharknado until like the last 15-20 minutes in the movie, and the rest is just very poorly. It's basically like Deep Blue Sea on land, but done a lot cheaper and more poorly done,
and very nonsensical. Like, just huge gaping plot holes like you could drive a fucking truck through, which sometimes can be fun, not so much in Sharknado.
Yeah, but again, even like all the actors and everything, they know what kind of movie they're in, and they're not really trying. Like, that's why when I talked about Sharknado 2, like, the only saving factor of that movie was the lead guy that played Finn, Ian Ziering from 90210. Like, he knows what kind of movie he's in, but he's still giving it his all and trying to be like this macho action star, which actually comes off pretty funny. But everyone else, they just seem like really tired. They know they're in a piece of shit movie, so they're not really giving any effort. They're just like, I'm in a piece of shit movie. It doesn't matter how I act, because people are just here for the shitty CGI sharks. Like, Tara Reid's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I will say that kind of reminds me of oh shit, I just lost his name. But Mark from The Room. When I saw him, I was in New Orleans, and he did
Greg Sestero.
Greg Sestero, when he did a book signing for his thing. And by the way, if you haven't read Greg Sestero's book, fucking amazing.
Yeah, The Disaster
Artist, fucking amazing. But when he was there, he just seemed so tired, so disappointed. Like, and it's not like he was on drugs or anything. It just seemed like he's like, this is kind of my life now. Like, it's been defined by this movie. And someone kind of asked him that, and he was like, well, I probably wouldn't have gotten these opportunities if it wasn't for The Room, but then again, it has stained my life. Like,
yeah, it's like I have been talking about The Room for the past over a decade now.
Yeah,
like, there's only so much you can say about it.
And it's not going to stop anytime soon.
Exactly. Like, so we got some fame from that. He was able to write a really awesome book that people are interested in, which is being optioned into a movie now. But honestly, like, how long can you talk about the same movie for that long? Like, that's all he's been doing. Like, I'm sure Tommy Wiseau is still happy to just get the fame and popularity from it, even if it's not what he originally intended. But Greg Sestero is just like, is this my whole life, this one shitty movie I was in?
Yeah, but we're gonna talk about The Room later. But where I want to segue from Sharknado to is actually asking you, would you put Snakes on a Plane in the same spectrum?
Not quite. No. Because, okay, and one thing about Snakes on a Plane, when that came out, the Asylum put out a film, Snakes on a Train. So that's the difference right there. Snakes on a Plane versus Snakes on a Train. Snakes on a Train is trying to capitalize on that kind of thing, and they are just putting together a very quick, shitty, sloppy movie. Snakes on a Plane is pure B-movie entertainment. And it really is
Yeah.
because they got talent behind it, like actual talent. They got people that wanted to be in this movie that thought it would be really fun. And again, Samuel L. Jackson as your anchor, who's actually really committing to it and isn't just
man.
like, he isn't sleepily delivering his lines like a fucking Tara Reid being the star of the picture. No, he's really into it. He's getting he's being Samuel L. Jackson in this movie. He believes those snakes are on that plane and he has to fuck them up.
And they're also using like real snakes. It's not crappy CGI the whole time.
Yeah,
Like,
there is some for
is.
some of the larger ones, but yeah,
Yeah.
they use real snakes in certain scenes. They use even practical effects at times for like animatronic snakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like everyone involved was having fun with it. They know it's
It
a
did,
silly
yeah.
premise, the same way they do with Sharknado and everything, but they still take it seriously and they try to make a good, entertaining movie. They don't just try to like slapdash put together whatever they can because they know people are going to watch it. They literally like tried to make a good movie out of it.
Yeah. Well, and also the famous story about snakes on a plane is how they how it was going to be this PG-13 movie. Then people got a hold of it and they're like, oh my god, this movie's going to be amazing, because Samuel L. Jackson wouldn't let them change the name because he's like, no, the only reason I'm in this film is because it's called Snakes on a Motherfucking Plane. And so they went back and did reshoots, like crowdsourcing from the internet what people wanted to see from a movie called Snakes on a Plane. And it came out, and I think that's one of the coolest things. An audience got to participate in the making of the film, and it makes it so much more fun.
Oh yeah, because they're making it for that audience.
Yeah.
They're not making it for Oscar bait. They're not making it to make the big summer blockbuster. Oh, I mean, somewhat are, but that's not what they're going
Yeah.
for. Like the kind of people that want to go see this movie.
Exactly.
They're not churning something out to make some money off the Sci-Fi Channel and possibly get the Riff Tracks guys to do it and make some money off of that. Like
Yeah.
they're not doing that. They're actually trying to make a fun movie that fans would enjoy.
Yeah, and I for one, I fucking love Snakes on a Plane. I'm a
No,
huge
I remember
fan.
you saw it twice.
Yeah.
It came out on your birthday. You saw it twice
I
in a
did.
row, and we listened to the soundtrack in between doing that.
Yes, I was obsessed. I had a great time, and I agree this doesn't deserve to be lumped in with Sharknado. I just wanted to. A lot of people do lump it in. I think it's unfair to Snakes on a Plane. That was it had some heart in going into it.
It did have some heart, but also just more effort into it. Like, yes, it
Yeah.
was bigger budget, and I understand that The Asylum and movies like Sharknado work with a much lower budget, but they do that on purpose. They could put some more money into it, and they could try to make it better, because, like I said, the production company always makes money. They have the money to spend, but they just churn out these cheap, shitty movies as quickly as possible to return a quick profit.
Because
But-
why not?
Yeah, exactly. But Snakes on a Plane, it had more money into it. It had more effort. They took more time to make it. They didn't shoot it in a fucking month. And they really, they went with this idea. They found an idea they liked, and they went for it. They didn't just oh, whatever, if this doesn't work, we have 7 more movies in the line that we'll film over the next 6 months, so we'll make money sooner or later.
Yeah, and so let's segue from that to Troll 2, one of the most famous bad movies ever.
And this is where we start talking about really good so-called bad movies. And this is when I start getting a little bit, not quite with Troll 2, but where we're headed, it's where I start getting offended by people calling it bad movies. Because it's entertaining. Yes, they are kind of shoddily done at times. They are lower budget. They are silly. But that doesn't make them bad. As long as you're getting entertainment, as long as you're enjoying the movie, it's not really bad.
Yeah, and Troll 2, the famous story is that it was Italian. They were Italian directors that came over, and they were working with an American crew that could not. And there was just a language barrier the entire filming process.
Which is one of the big things about these so-called good bad movies. That's usually one of the things, because it's usually a big language barrier. You'll have a foreign director coming to work with an American crew, an American cast, and there's a big language barrier. It happened the same thing with The Room, and I think even Birdemic to a certain degree, to where, yes, there's a language barrier. The director thinks they have this great vision and they're making an awesome movie, but it just doesn't translate well into a language they don't really understand and into a culture they don't really understand. Which just it makes hilarity.
It does, and I mean, I think Birdemic and Troll 2, of all the ones we're talking about that aren't studio budgeted, these are the most fun, the most visceral fun you can have with this, because it's taking these kind of sci-fi / horror concepts that are such easy tropes to do, and failing at the trope, which is what's I think is so astounding behind them, that you're how do you fail at making a cheap horror movie or a not so good horror movie?
Well, and the thing
almost...
with Troll 2, it's mostly the language barrier thing and how basically the actors are working for the director. So whatever he tells them, however he tells them to say a line, whatever line he tells them to say, they have to do that because that's their job. So a lot of it doesn't translate well. And if you look at any scene from Troll 2, you will see that. But at the same time, like, they had some kind of cool effects in the movie. Like when they actually had the goblins and they actually, used the color green so much and had like the vegetarian aspect of it. Like there were some cool ideas and some cool visuals that play in the movie. It's mostly just the translating of the dialogue into English and getting the actors to say it in a certain way that just makes it ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's the big thing behind Troll 2 is it really could have been an alright horror movie. I mean, probably forgettable, but it made it unforgettable that none of it makes sense. It's like
also just the fact that these Italian directors think that they're just like, no, trolls, goblins, same fucking thing, right? No, we're gonna call them goblins, but no, it's Troll 2 because they're trolls, goblins. What the fuck's the difference?
Yeah.
Can I get a plate of spaghetti
with marinara?
Okay, we don't need to get into that.
No. But we do love Tom Goes to the Mirror. But that's another issue. But yeah, in Troll 2, it was, once again, like, could have been a good horror movie. That leads us to Birdemic, which totally fails at making this weird homage, I want to say, to Alfred Hitchcock. Like, I think, I want to say I've heard it said before that Nguyen, I don't know how to say it. It's
like James Nguyen, I think.
James Nguyen, yeah, but yeah, it's spelled like a G and a Y. Anyway, James Nguyen, and it's like he wanted to make The Birds, but with this...
He wanted to have a socially conscious message in it about pollution and the environment.
And it completely fails on every... Like, this is where you get to the complete breakdown of competence within shooting a movie, because...
Oh, yeah.
Scenes where just the microphones cut out, like the audio will cut out and come right back in, and it's just jarring. Everyone who's using a number uses ridiculously unplausible rounded numbers like $1 million. We just sold our company for $1 billion. Yeah. You know what? I'll give that to you. 50% off.
Oh yeah, no, so it was going to be $2 billion, but he got it down to $1 billion because he gave them a 50% off discount.
Even though the deal was already...
I wasn't sure if Birdemic was like a language barrier thing. I assumed so, but then after I discovered a little bit more about him, because James Nguyen, he also did a movie called Megan is Missing, which Your Movie Sucks did a really awesome review of. He also did that, so
I forgot.
Yeah, seeing him being like interviewed about it, he definitely does have that language barrier to where he doesn't really seem like he quite understand. He has these vague ideas about these issues he's trying to touch, but he doesn't really understand any of the details about them. Which I think is what happened in Birdemic. It was very cheaply done. They had non-actors in it. They had horrible, like, MS Paint, like, kind of graphics in there.
Yeah.
But again, like, he thought he was making, like, a revolutionary movie. He thought he was going to teach people about the environment and get them to change their ways. But it's just so flawed in its execution that it is just a joy to watch.
It is. And going back to Megan is Missing, like there's I totally forgot that was James Nguyen, but I mean I've only seen the Your Movie Sucks about it, but it's all about the dangers of the internet. Essentially, the internet is a horrible monster that's gonna beat and rape your child.
Yeah.
But it's all this like found footage, but implausible found footage, and there's this great scene that he goes on about where he essentially puts a teenager in front of a camera and tells her to freak out at her friend, and like it's like this whole ad-lib process, and it is the worst ad-libbing ever, and it's just like no one talks this way, and
but I think like, that maybe wouldn't have even been the actor. They might have had something to do with it, but I'm sure he's like, no, you have to say things like this because this is how teenagers talk. I know, trust me, I'm not from your country.
To a certain extent, but I think he gave the actresses a lot more freedom since it was supposed to be found footage. But he doubles down on that in Birdemic by you can almost see, unless he just got the worst actors ever, which I think he did with the male lead.
He definitely did, but yeah, I think there was a lot of ad-libbing in that as well. But also, a lot with the microphone and the sound design and stuff, because also every time there's an ADR line, which there are quite a few, the actual sound where you can hear background noise and stuff will cut out, the ADR line will come up, and then the regular sound will cut back in. Like there's no continuity between that at all, and it sounds very choppy. Even the edits are very choppy.
Yeah, I mean, like, he can't even film a news anchor, right? To where it looks like they're even, like, you'll see that, like, they dwarf the news anchor while there's, like, a huge TV, essentially, behind her that's displaying whatever, I can't remember. It's insane shit, and it doesn't resemble anything from real life, and that's
that's one of the beautiful things about Birdemic is that it's supposed to be real life and realistic, but it's just like this weird alternate reality. And one of my favorite scene in Birdemic that I can think of off the top of my head is the scene where the two lead characters are like out on their first date and they talk and have some ridiculous dialogue about companies and money and blah blah blah. But then the two are like completely alone on a dance floor dancing to this guy like singing this weird, you know, non-trademarked song.
No,
and it's
hanging
just
out
like
with the
this
family.
is how, yeah, hanging out with the family.
The song is one of the most amazing parts.
Yeah, but exactly. But it's just like this is how the director views like two people falling in love. Like this is how two young American white people fall in love. They go have dinner, they talk about business and money because that's what's important to them, and then they dance to one of these black fellas singing an R&B song.
Singing borderline karaoke to a song that doesn't exist.
But yeah, and the fact that it's just the singer and then it's the two of them dancing and there's nobody else in it.
Yeah, no.
It's just it's beautiful. It's this beautiful incompetence, which is a running line in any of these kind of good bad movies. It's just like an extreme incompetence. Like they think they're doing well, they want to make a good movie, but they just don't have the means or the talent to do so.
I will say, I think my favorite part of Birdemic, and I mean, it's a beautiful movie, just in how weird and horrible it is. But they've gone through this whole Birdemic thing, and the denouement is them deciding to go take a picnic on a beach instead of staying in the car where they're protected from these birds.
Oh yeah, because it's not like the Birdemic stopped all of a sudden. They just like
no, they just.
And at the end, I think was it the birds just all die.
No, the birds fly away for like 10 minutes while you watch them on the beach sitting there. And that is the end of the movie where you just see the birds kind of not moving, but supposed to be flying away.
Flapping. Oh yeah, and they're just staring away in like the wrong direction.
Yeah, and it goes on for at least 3 to 5 minutes. It's like it is the definition of padding. It is so funny.
Oh yeah, and not only padding, but just like I can't even imagine like the kind of guerrilla filmmaking techniques he was using while making this, to where like he does this and then he has these ridiculous elements that where he had to have been like, no, we'll fix that in post. Kind of like even like the way Lloyd Kaufman does things. It's like no, keep going, cut, roll. No, I'll fix it later. It's okay. Yeah, to where like he'll have people with these cheap fake plastic guns like kind of moving it as if they're shooting. He's like no, I'll fix that later. I'll put in these little GIF paintings of birds and have them just like shoot, and I'll make it work. It'll be okay. So I think he finally got into the editing room and he's like, oh my god, what the fuck? This is what I have to work with. Oh, this is gonna be a long night. All right, let's go. Pull up Windows 98. I got some work to do with the graphics.
Who the fuck's got my Windows 98 key? And this brings us to the movie that is titled The Best Worst Movie of All Time, and I totally believe this movie deserves the title, because it is made like it is a movie from just another dimension. Like, it is a movie that is made like someone who has seen like maybe like Rebel Without a Cause and a couple of episodes of Full House and like maybe a daytime soap opera, and he decides he's gonna make a movie.
It really is. It's kind of like if astronauts and scientists sent like a capsule of what human life is like, and they send them just one based on our art, like our films, and they send like Rebel Without a Cause and like just dramatic things, and they send it up into space, and some weird alien race finds it, and the rest of them don't care, but there's just this one alien that becomes completely enthralled by these people and their emotions, and he's like, no, I need to know more about this. I can do this. I need to make the great American dramatic love hate story.
Yes, and of course we are talking about The Room.
Yeah,
Tommy
which
Wiseau
actually
is The Room. Something
I kind of want to go along the same like parallel tracks while we talk about this. It is kind of considered the best bad movie of all time at this point. Before that, though, the best bad movie of all time was considered Plan 9 from Outer Space by Ed Wood Jr. Yep. And I think there's a lot of parallels to those two filmmakers and to those two projects. And again, I think even though like the foreignness and the language barrier isn't an issue in Ed Wood stuff,
No,
I think
just incompetence.
yeah, just incompetence, but also the passion that they shared, and also just the determination to make this, no matter what anyone else would say, no matter if anyone says no, this wasn't work. They have it in their head like, no, this is gonna be brilliant. I know what I'm doing. You just need to fucking get in this movie. You act, you produce, you do this. This is gonna be brilliant. Just come along with me. This is gonna be a wild ride.
Yeah, I want to say the bigger difference between the two, though, would be that Ed Wood famously shot a lot of scenes with Bela Lugosi of him like walking around a graveyard, him holding flowers outside of his house, like all these scenes that he just wanted because he loved Bela Lugosi so much. He
and
shot
just
all
toss
these
them in
scenes.
wherever he could.
Yeah, so Bela Lugosi dies, so they can't do any reshoots. So he's just tossing them in the movie to kind of give him his last film.
Well, and that's the thing is that that wasn't even the film they were doing it for. It was supposed to be for something else.
Yep.
But that's all they got. So he's just like, I think even in that, and I think there was one other movie where he also tossed some of those shots in.
Really?
I believe so.
I
I know he definitely did that, but I believe there was something else where he tossed in some of those shots as well.
I've seen a lot of Ed Wood, like his early work, or I guess most of his work. Really, they came out with the
He hasn't done
DVD,
that
like,
much, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe 6 years ago they came out with a DVD of all his work. So I've seen like even like his Ed or Edina or whatever.
Oh,
something
Glenn
like
or
that.
Glenda.
Glenn or Glenda, like that shit's pretty insane.
Yeah, no, I really dig that one, and a lot of like his really earlier stuff. I think mostly I've only seen through like Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah,
Because I know they did what is it?
The detective one, right?
Yeah. Well, they also did another one. It was like the Bride Returns, the corpse.
Oh, the bride screaming
or,
something.
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, yeah whatever. But yeah, so I would say that's the big difference with Plan 9. It's kind of he's trying to form a film around this central conceit that he needs Bela Lugosi scenes in there, and he also hires apparently drunk people to play like the cops in the army in the movie, and so it's falling apart, whereas The Room is kind of going on track.
That's
Like,
true. It is based on one central idea, and also another big difference is that Ed Wood had to like hustle money from anyone he could trying to sell his movie, while Tommy Wiseau and his vague mysterious fortune funded the movie completely, and he was okay
$4 million.
afterwards. I thought it got up to
$4
$6 at some point.
It might have. Well, no one knows. There's no official.
Oh, okay.
report. I can't remember if he says in the Disaster Artist, but I think 4 is the unofficial number. Maybe 6, like maybe between 4 and 6. This might be the numbers. But yeah, if you see the movie, you don't know where that money went because it is not on the screen. Well,
but if you watch behind the scenes stuff, and if you read the Disaster Artist, you do know where that money goes, because Tommy Wiseau, he just bought all of his own equipment. He rented out studio space and like made green screens for scenes that he didn't need to, because like all the rooftop scenes are green screened, but he owned a building where it would have been a perfect rooftop in San Francisco for him to shoot a San Francisco rooftop.
He's green screening the San Francisco skyline while shooting in San Francisco. It's the most insane concept.
Oh, well, I thought he was shooting in LA. And that was the thing.
Oh, no, he was shooting in LA, but yeah,
he green screened the San Francisco skyline.
No,
yeah, he
right.
owned a building with an awesome rooftop that he could have shot this on. But instead, he built a little set in the parking lot of like not even a studio, but somewhere that just sold film equipment.
Yeah, something.
He bought the equipment, so they allowed him to like shoot in their parking lot.
Well, no, he was supposed to be shooting inside. He decided he was going to shoot in the parking lot, and they got pissed, and he just wouldn't stop doing it. Something like that. Read the Disaster Artist, but that's the behind the scenes are one of the most insane things about the film. But the film has taken on a life of its own. It was barely discovered in its last week of running time by some drunk college kids who realized its magnificence, because Tommy Wiseau bought out a billboard that just had his weird face plastered all over it.
Yeah, it told you nothing about what it was, but yeah, it was up there for quite a long time.
It's
and
still
even
up
now,
there, I think.
Oh, it's still up there? I wasn't sure if it still was, but I know he still has the hotline up. To where like you can call and it'll tell you where it's screening, and it's just Tommy Wiseau speaking the way he does.
Yeah,
because I remember when we were reading the Disaster Artist recently, like the number was in there, and he was like, "You can call. I bet it's still going to be up." And I did call, and it was still up.
Yeah, me too. It's like, oh man. But it's just, I mean, the actual movie is just, it's brilliant. It is, none of the lines of dialogue make sense. A plot point of the mother having cancer is thrown out casually, never revisited. It's such you can tell it's just coming from his heart, but he just has such a weird, warped, one-sided heart. Like, he apparently hates women. Like, he fucking... It's like there's this... Nathan Rabin talks about this, but there's this telling scene where he's talking about how when he met Lisa, he was impressed because she didn't let him pay for dinner on their first date. And that's how he knew that she was the love of his life. That, like, it says volumes about Tommy Wiseau, that he has to keep giving out money, because when he's reading The Disaster Artist, that's the thing, is that he just keeps throwing money towards Greg Sestero, like money
for friendship,
presents.
for help, just to have some companionship. He offers him a place to live for free, but it's weird because at the same time he is completely jealous of Greg Sestero for being young, for being attractive, for having his career taking off at the time, which is another thing that makes me really sad reading The Disaster Artist, is that Greg Sestero kind of started to get a career, and he probably could have done much better for himself, or at least started to, but he got so bogged down by the
mediocrely.
room. Yeah, well, but you never know, because he just got so bogged down by Tommy Wiseau in the room that is his life now. That's all he has to talk about, and no one else is going to hire him in a movie because he was in the fucking room.
No, it stained everyone else's career that was doing that, but he has probably made, I would wager, given that there was access to alternate universes, he has made more money with The Room than he would have ever made.
So. I think once, his book came out and that got optioned to be a movie now, like, definitely now, yes. But that was like a good decade after the movie came out. So there was a whole decade where he was kind of floundering and just having to go to screenings and talk to, reporters and stuff and just be like, yeah, I'm part of this movie. And that was kind of all he had, so I'm sure he was regretting it for a long time, but at least he got something good out of it, and he got that book, which is a tremendous book. And that's the thing, is that I thought reading the book that it would answer all the strange questions you had about Tommy Wiseau and how this movie came together. And while it does that a little bit, it mostly just opens more doors and asks more questions. It leaves you so much more in the dark than you were just watching the movie blindly.
It's this great cinematic puzzle. Like, The Room is just this amazing time capsule of the time. And Tommy Wiseau, like he said, he wants to make a Room 2, but it's just like making Birdemic 2. You're self-aware now. It doesn't matter. These things are great because they have heart put into them. These people actually believe in what they're doing. And there's something... They are trying to do something. They're not, I mean, I guess self-awareness is really the killing factor, like Birdemic 2. Like, you can't make a Birdemic 2 because now you're just making it cheap. You're making it on purpose. And that's not why it was great.
Well,
it was
that's
great
the thing.
Because it was earnest.
That's why if you look at any of these people that have made these glorious, like, good bad movies, or the bad movies that, like, stand the test of time, they make one. That's it. They can only make one because once it actually gets out there and people like it for the reasons they do like it, you can't recapture that. Like, this is just one, it's just fucking lightning in a bottle. Like, it was the perfect storm of incompetence came together in order to produce this movie. If you try to go back and get that, it won't work. You're too self-aware. And I think the only person that maybe defies that, or maybe no matter what the reason people like his movies, he can just go beyond that and still think of himself on a much higher level, is Neil Breen. Because he has made several films now. And I don't think he's gotten to the point of being self-aware.
I don't think he got to the point of being self-aware because he wasn't known. Because his films are not in wide release, and they've been hard to find. But recently, a Dissolve article came out about him, and I think now is the time he would be self-aware.
It depends on where he goes now, because not even just that Dissolve article, but his latest film, Fateful Findings, that is actually getting more of a release. Like, the Drafthouse film company, like Drafthouse Films, they didn't release it, but they were playing at a bunch of different theaters. They're doing midnight shows and stuff like that all around me. In Austin and San Antonio, they were doing like midnight shows of Fateful Findings. So this one's getting more attention, and I think that's why the Dissolve article came out. I think that's why he's getting more. So it really depends on where he goes from here. Because I know that he's put out 3 films so far, and we've only seen one of those 3. We haven't seen Fateful Findings.
We can only see... Yeah.
Well, yeah,
one's in
Fateful
theater. I
Findings,
haven't gotten
that's
to
if
see it.
you see a showing. I am here, ... now, which is just baffling. You can't find it anywhere, or at least we haven't been able to find it anywhere. And then
There's
his
an
first
awesome
film,
trailer.
Oh yeah, there is an awesome
that's
trailer
it.
for all of his movies. And the one that we did find, because Netflix had it on DVD for some fucking reason, is his first film, Double Down.
And what a doozy it is. It's in the Dissolve article, they kind of call him the new Tommy Wiseau, and
I could see that.
agree after Double Down. Like, I mean, it's definitely a different monster, but he is definitely, and you can tell if you watch all his, like, the trailers back to back, he is definitely harping on this one theme, which is technology. And
well, it's a complete almost he is in awe of technology, yet he is really mistrustful towards technology, but he also just does not understand technology, which is where all of that comes from. He is in awe of what technology can do, he is afraid of what technology can do, yet he does not understand at all what technology is.
No, and I will say of Double Down, I have never seen a movie that does not have one line of dialogue that is not exposition. It is, like, there are movies that are majority exposition. This movie is either doing a voiceover or it is doing exposition in its dialogue.
Well, and that's the thing about the voiceovers, too. All of the voiceovers are practically the same. He's saying one of two things. He's talking about his love, the love of his life, and trying to be with her again, even though she's dead. Or he's talking about the government and technology and terrorism.
Yeah, and it is absolutely insane. This is all intercut. He has his own camera that he's shooting shit with. Then he just buys a bunch of extra footage and just adds it throughout the movie.
Oh, there's tons of it. Literally, you can't go more than 5 to 10 minutes in this movie without stock footage popping up, and not even like new stock footage. Most of it seems like it's from the 70s or 80s of like different landmarks and stuff like that, to where it's really grainy, and it looks, even though the quality of film in this movie is pretty low, it still looks 20 years older than anything else in the movie.
Yeah, and harping back on the exposition, for a movie that is all exposition, I have no idea what the fuck this movie is about. I got through it not knowing a goddamn thing about what Double Down is.
Well, that's the thing. After I got this movie from Netflix, I watched it. I have to say I was completely engaged throughout it, even though I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then afterwards, when I sent it back, I got to the dreaded, what do you rate this film? Out of 5 stars. And I thought long and hard about it. And I was like, I don't understand this movie. I don't know what happens. I don't even necessarily like it. But I think I need to give it 5 stars because it's kind of fucking brilliant.
It's amazing. If Tommy Wiseau is making a movie from having seen other movies, like that, if he's an alien making a movie based off the little bit he knows of
I feel like Neil Breen
history.
has never seen a movie before.
Exactly. He's maybe seen a couple of trailers for movies. He had a movie described to him one time.
Pretty much that's it. And that's why they do have very similar things, to where these guys apparently had money and they decided they wanted to make a movie and they're going to be the hero of that movie. So he wrote, directed, and starred in a movie that he completely came up with, and that he set himself up to be the star, and he wants to be this action star. He's trying to make these action movies, but almost kind of like a techno thriller action movie. Well,
exactly. He's making an action film without it ever getting into the realm of being an action film. Like, there's no bad guys. It's him, like, for the most part, like, the one action scene is where he kind of jumps in the dirt. He's like, I love my country. I love my country. Like, it's
he's just like making out with the dirt almost.
Yeah, and just like, maybe it didn't stick with me, but, and also there is another throwing out a casual disease for no reason in this movie too, so that's another connection it has with The Room. It's they're like at the table, like, our daughter also has cancer. He's like, I am so sorry. It just sounds like the most condescending tone you could possibly give.
There is. And also, like, anthrax comes up at some point, and it's just like weird rules for anthrax. Like, apparently they released it into the air, but only this one person got it because he touched it. Like,
that's the whole thing. I was like, wait, is this gonna spread? Like, no, it's just that guy. But but like, why did
it's
he
just the
give
guy
it
that
to that
touched
guy?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But,
it made no sense. But one of my favorite things about Double Down is, again, the fact that even though he's trying to add more to it and he's trying to make himself the star, he is trying to do this like action movie conceits. Like, so there's all of these quote unquote action scenes of him like climbing up and down rocks extremely slowly, like being very careful. Like he's not trying to rush it. He doesn't want to hurt himself. So he's like slowly climbing down rocks and climbing up rocks and then like uncovering computers and guns that he hid under rocks.
No, it's like watching a 40-year-old man like go hiking with his family. Like, that's about what you're watching when you're watching Neil Breen.
But he plays it. He records it, and he didn't like speed it up or anything to try to make it look cooler. He didn't add like even like enticing or exciting music to make it sound better.
I mean,
but
he didn't even add like close-up shots so that you could be like, hey, like, so you don't have to notice him going so slowly.
Literally like he sets up the camera 50 feet away and then films in real time him slowly like sliding and carefully climbing down rocks, like not even on a whole mountain, just like there's a hill of rocks and he's like slowly working his way down.
Well, you know, they say slow and steady wins the race.
Neil Breen did get that right.
But yeah, it's this movie is I mean, it's one of my new favorite bad movies. Like, I love The Room because there's so much heart put into it, but this one is so baffling because he doesn't get anything right about anything.
And it's weird because I can't tell if it is heart in it or not. I can't tell if it's heart or if it's just all ego.
I think it's just all ego.
I think it's all ego and just being scared of technology.
I think it's ego, incompetence, and this one, and like just, I mean, it's like any director kind of has a theme they play on. He has his theme, and it's technology and spirituality, just covered by a complete misunderstanding of film language, of how film works to any degree. Like I said, it's like he had a movie described to him one time, and he decided, I'm going to do one of those things you just talked about. And
exactly, and that's the main difference, I think, between Breen and Wiseau. Wiseau, you can tell, has a love of cinema. He has a love of film. He's taken acting classes. He's done auditions. Yeah. He tried to do all this, but he couldn't get through because he's so fucking weird and so alien to everyone.
Honestly, he's talentless.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also just like has such a barrier to where he's like, no, okay, I'm just going to do it myself then. If no one else will cast me, I'm going to make my own fucking movie. Neil Breen seems like he casually maybe wanted to make a movie when he was a teenager or in college or something, and then when he got into his midlife crisis in his mid-40s, he's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna make that movie thing like I wanted to all those years ago. Are they still making those things? Those moving pictures?
I remember seeing First Blood Part 2. I kind of like that. Let's make something like that.
Yeah. They still make those moving pictures, right? With the peoples in them, and they got the cell phones and the laptops. Yeah, I'm gonna make one of those technology pictures.
Yeah, I sat in one of those theaters one time. I mean, I had to leave in the middle to make a phone call, but I mean, I was there. I get the idea.
Yeah, that's kind of what I get from Neil Breen, but it's fucking brilliant.